Hi, everyone. We are the Humanistic Service Provision. Behavior analysts are frequently expected to work with a broad range of clients who may have a limited understanding of the BACB Professional and Ethical Compliance Code. As a result, behavior analysts may be faced with clients who request they engage in behavior considered unethical based on our strict adherence to the code. Today, we're going to examine both sides of this issue, which include but are not limited to real life experiences, rapport building, multiple perspectives, client, professional, cultural expectations, establishing and maintaining professional boundaries, and the impact ethical violations can have on relationships. The ethical code is the code in which behavior analysts adhere to ensure the services we are providing are ethical and follow the core principles that behavior analysts follow, which are we benefit others, we treat others with compassion, dignity, and respect, we behave with integrity, and we ensure our competence. The codes we are going to be debating today are 1.11 multiple relationships. Because multiple relationships may result in a conflict of interest that might harm one or more parties, behavior analysts avoid entering into or creating multiple relationships, including professional, personal, or familial relationships with clients and colleagues. Behavior analysts communicate the risks of multiple relationships to relevant individuals and continually monitor for the development of multiple relationships. If multiple relationships arise, behavior analysts take appropriate steps to resolve them. When immediately resolving a multiple relationship is not possible, behavior analysts develop appropriate safeguards to identify and avoid conflicts of interest in compliance with the code and develop a plan to eventually resolve the multiple relationships. Behavior analysts document all actions taken in the circumstances and the eventual outcomes. We will also be doing 1.12, which is giving and receiving gifts. Because the exchange of gifts can invite conflicts of interest in multiple relationships, behavior analysts do not give gifts or accept gifts from clients, stakeholders, supervisees, or trainees with a monetary value of more than 10 US dollars or the equivalent purchasing power in another currency. Behavior analysts make clients, and stakeholders aware of this requirement at the onset of professional services. A gift is acceptable if it functions as an infrequent expression of gratitude and does not result in financial benefit to the recipient. Instances of giving or accepting ongoing or cumulative gifts may rise to the level of a violation of this standard if the gifts become a regular expected source of income or the value to the recipient. We will also be going over 1.13, which is coercive and exploitative relationships. Behavior analysts do not abuse their power or authority by coercing or exploiting a person over whom they have authority.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Krista Saladino, and the first two codes that we'll be addressing are 1.11 and 1.13, which addresses the ethical concerns regarding multiple relationships and coercive and exploitive relationships. Research shows that a therapist-client relationship naturally results in an imbalance of power. This is due to it being a one-sided relationship. Whether this relationship is between behavior therapists, social workers, teachers, mental health therapists, etc., the client is being vulnerable with the individual providing services. This may be that they're sharing personal fears and thoughts or displaying a level of vulnerability due to lack of skills, or families are trusting behavior therapists with their child. This natural imbalance requires boundaries to protect the client, but also the person delivering services. The code provides the boundaries necessary to prevent an abuse of power. This protects the client from being taken advantage of, but also in a situation of a supervisor and supervisee relationship.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sabrina. While there are codes in place for multiple relationships, having knowledge of that client can be useful to have a comprehensive understanding of that client in terms of their medical history, their family history, maybe the different types of family structures they have. Sometimes that's not expressed in the 1 hour family meeting they have initially with the client. And sometimes that information can be gathered further along, and having that knowledge beforehand can help make decisions as a BCBA. There's not always malicious intent. Sometimes the multiple relationship could be a neighbor across the street that you hardly interact with, and having clients not have access to services because of those strict boundaries can overall lead to loss of services for that specific client, which in the end can be extremely harmful.
So while I hear and value the viewpoint that knowledge of clients is useful, this still requires regulations to be in place to, again, protect all stakeholders involved. Research shows that individuals have a difficult time separating their personal values, principles, beliefs, and/or ideals when they find themselves in complicated situations. Complicated situations are going to arise when providing any type of service to clients. If we do know a person's history, such as family dynamics, past traumas, it can be really difficult to separate and think in a clear, unbiased way. A person's ethical or moral values influence their decision making, and it can impact the way the rules, codes are interpreted and then implemented. The value of the code is that it removes the factor of personal views and creates an unbiased lens to address these complex situations, which protects the client, but also it's going to protect the service provider. When we as service providers make decisions through our filter of experiences, values, morals, etc., there's room for error, which can lead to decision making that may not be in the best interest of the client. So the code really provides these clear guidelines and prevents this from happening.
And kind of going back off of what Krista said, while the code is in place to protect the client, sometimes there are other factors, including location of where the client is. Sometimes there are small rural communities, and so there may be only one BCBA to service that client. Research shows that there are so many clients only having access to 1 to 3 BCBAs, and clearly you may know someone who is a BCBA, and some BCBAs may not be familiar with a client's behavior, and so they may need to work with other BCBAs to provide successful treatment. Young Pelton Dotson also recommends that BCBAs collaborate, and so sometimes having just a little bit knowledge of the client can be helpful. Also, in regards to different cultures, some BCBAs are more fluent in different languages, which can ease communication between the family and the therapy team. Oftentimes, research has also shown that greater communication can lead to a cohesive team working together with the overall goal to improve that client's overall skills. In regards to cultural competency, sometimes a BCBA may be assigned to a case and they may understand the language a little bit better, and they can assist the team with caregiving. In regards to effective training and supervision for registered behavior technicians for therapy, the BACB also has supervision requirements to maintain treatment integrity. So this means that BCBAs must supervise at least 5% of the RBT's total hours. So we do have supervision requirements in place to make sure that multiple relationships aren't affecting the overall treatment of the client. And these are our points that have been made about multiple/dual relationships, and we are ready to go over our next point.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I'll be covering our next point about gifts. Gifts can result in multiple relationships occurring because it is a slippery slope of what is appropriate and what is not. We need to make sure that as behavior analysts, we're avoiding financially exploiting our clients and their families, and getting anything that is worth too much money. Working with clients of diverse backgrounds and cultures may increase the value of gifts because we might not be too diverse in understanding of what their cultures might be and what might mean more to them and what might mean like less to us in our cultures. So we need to make sure that we're being diverse and understanding like what gifts mean in everyone's cultures. And as behavior analysts, we aren't always aware of what might mean what in each different cultures. And it makes it hard to interpret the relationships between client and behavior analyst. And it becomes difficult to determine when giving can become a violation or when it has crossed the line. This can make it hard to keep boundaries in place and that have been established when you do not understand the cultural context behind giving. Um, However, it does make it difficult to draw the line after so much time has been spent together in an intimate setting such as home, clinic, or schools. And this really reinforces the importance of having a code and establishing the contract or relationship before you provide services. We just need to make sure that we're not accepting gifts that are over the monetary value because it is such a slippery slope. And working with clients where we work on targets such as advocating and understanding things, we need to make sure that we're understanding and following this code.
Well, I do agree with you, Kayla. But in code 1.12, giving and receiving gifts, it does say that we may not like give monetary over a monetary value of $10. However, like you stated, in different cultures, things mean different things. And just so because something might be $10 of value to us, it might be super personal to the other family, and it might be something really important to them. So we could see it as something, okay, like it's only a couple of dollars. However, it could be something that means a whole lot more to the family, and it's really hard to draw the line there. And as cited in Witz et al. 2020, several other professional organizations are listed as not having any explicit policy on accepting gifts. For example, the American Psychiatric Association, the American Psychological Association, just to name a few. They do not have anywhere in their ethics code anything related to accepting gifts except from the multicultural practice guidelines, which argue accepting gifts for cultural reasons would fall under these guidelines and be in line with the ethical practices. However, nowhere in the BACB code does it say anything about the cultural value and the cultural significance of gifts in other cultures. We can't hear you.
Well, I do understand your point, Bailey. Back to what I was saying about cultural context. So sometimes something that might be underneath the $10 value for us in our code, it might be under the $10 value and it might mean so much in a certain culture. So that might really lead into having a dual relationship or an interpersonal relationship where we're not allowed to have multiple personal relationships with our kiddos or our clients as behavior analysts. So it's really important for us to really establish those boundaries so that we stick within our code. And understanding that other places and other areas do not have those codes that they follow. As behavior analysts need to make sure that we're following the code that was put in place just so that we're not exploiting our clients. And I do trust and know that like as behavior analysts, a lot of us are following that code, but it is a slippery slope because somewhere along the line, somebody could start to exploit financially their clients. And we want to make sure that we keep that code in place so that that does not happen.
Oh, hi, everybody. My name is Oscar. I wanted to bring up the point in a book by Bailey and Birch. They mentioned no matter what culture one comes from, giving is almost never a truly selfless act, since reciprocity of some kind is expected. These gifts can range from making a home cooked meal for you to an all expense paid trip. By accepting these gifts from our clients' families, we are setting up an understanding that we will at some point repay the kind gesture with our own kind gestures. In fact, some may feel the need to respond to that kindness immediately and provide gifts to our clients, which can then create a cycle of gift giving, and then that can lead to a loss of professionalism. In the field of ABA, we work with families of all backgrounds, and some of these families may have strong traditions and cultures. Families may have a tradition of showing their appreciation and gratitude by gifting a tangible item. For example, my own grandma is very fond of the tradition and is the type of person to get you a warm hat and say, you can wear this while you shovel the snow outside. Or she would also make you a big breakfast and then ask you to go feed the cows and chickens. She wanted to show you appreciation, but she also wanted help with something in return. If we accept gifts from the families we work with, this is a possibility and it can be a difficult position to be in, but the ethics codes could help prevent this. Bailey and Birch go on to say social bonds are reinforced by the mutual exchange of gifts. As BCBAs, we want to establish a relationship with our clients and their families so that we can communicate with one another about the client's progress, struggles, or concerns, which is all important information that should be communicated. However, we also do not want to cross the line, and this can occur by a mutual exchange of gifts. Gifts can indicate these exchanges will be ongoing and there can be a lot of professionalism again. These actions could show we are acting as a friend instead of a professional, and that is not what we are meant to do. As BCBAs, we do not need all these gifts as reinforcement. All we want is to see an improvement in the client's behavior. That's our reinforcement. By explaining our ethics code regarding gifts, we can continue to have a strong partnership with the families we work with, and our clients will benefit greatly.
Well, I do agree with a lot of that. However, in this visual that I'm about to show, can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In this visual, it addresses it's from the same article as earlier, Witz et al. 2020. BCBAs serve a very wide range of people from all different cultural backgrounds. You can see here, there's so many different demographics that us as BCBAs, just ages, location, gender, years active, children's, adolescents, teens, adults, diagnoses. There's so many different things to take into account, not to mention that the behavior analyst certification is not just a United States certification. It's a certification we can take anywhere all over the world that we choose to go. Behavior analysts, we work in other countries, other continents, and with cultures that can be vastly different from our own Western culture here in the United States. This next visual I'm going to show, bear with me, is talking about how it could be offensive to refuse a gift. When they took data on whether or not it would be offensive to refuse a gift from the family's culture that they work with, 44 people said yes, it is offensive, and 13 said it is offensive to refuse a gift given for cultural reasons, offensive to refuse gifts, and doing so would compromise the therapeutic relationship. The parents persist on giving them gifts, and 13 people said no, it is not offensive, or no response giving. And then we also have the issue of accepting a gift from a client or a client's family, and 44 people did say it would change their relationship and it might establish a dual relationship. However, when we come to accepting gifts from a family, you also have to consider accepting gifts from a client. I personally had a client the other day who drew me a picture, and she traced my hands and she made a spider out of my hands in a picture. And she was like, "It's for you, Bailey." And I was like, "Thank you so much." And what is the harm in accepting that when I'm paired very well with her, it could cause a rift in our relationship. And if giving gifts or feeding people when they in their home is a cultural thing, it can be considered very rude, even if we establish our boundaries. And even if we present the code to them and we explain to them why, it can still be considered very rude and offensive to refuse the gifts and can damage the relationship we've worked so hard to build with these families. Because ultimately, it is about trust, and they trust us enough to have us in their homes. They trust us enough to have us around, but we could damage that by being like, "No, I'm sorry, I don't want this delicious water." So there's a lot to think about with every different culture.
So after hearing from both sides, our group decided to have a combined closing statement opposed to each side sharing. This is because after researching and debating both sides, we feel that while there is value in the code, we see the need for balance. The code allows for situations to remain unbiased and prevent unethical situations from arising. However, there could be some flexibility and leniency as not every situation is black and white. Sometimes there is only one BCBA in a rural town, and multiple relationships could arise. We also see the value in taking into account a person's cultural background when it comes to gifts, as well as looking at other fields, for example, education and psychology, which have full weeks or days to show appreciation for their service providers. Our group would love to see the code continue to be modified and worked on to best support all stakeholders involved and not be so black and white, but meet somewhere in the middle. The code should be something that is appreciated and desired and creates a feeling of being supported as opposed to being viewed as scary or something that creates a feeling of walking on eggshells, which can really lead the service provider to worrying more about following that set of rules than worrying about the client that we're working with. Again, our group sees the value, but would love to see some more balance. Next, we're going to address some questions for our group. Our first question is, what are some preventative strategies you can use to help clients, including parents and or others, not offer to provide you as a professional behavior analyst gifts?
As a behavior analyst, at some of the companies that I've experienced, and some of the companies that I know, just other people I know have experienced, before families come in, I feel like the expectation of what should be expected within our code and what we can provide as behavior analysts should be gone over with before families enter in within services. So during the intake process, I feel behavior analysts should go over with families what to expect within receiving services. I feel like it should be explained to them within a context that they understand. I feel like jargon should not be used when explaining these things to them. I feel it should be explained to them with whatever context they understand. So visuals, a PowerPoint. It should be sat down in a meeting, and I feel communication should be completely open with parents and teachers and whoever is going to be working alongside the child that should be expected to follow these rules and expectations within our code. And I feel that is the best way to move forward with our code. And what should happen when working with these families, just laying and establishing the boundaries before they come in. So that way us as behavior analysts can kind of let go of a little bit of the stress that if a gift does come to us, we know that it'll be like under $10 and the family isn't going against the code, and that the family completely understands everything, and that we know that we have explained it to them, they understand it, and we know that it's not going to ruin our relationship with the families and with the clients as well.
Thanks, Kayla. The next question we have is, what might be some aversive consequences that can occur if you accept a small gift? Examples like a glass of water, a $5 gift card. And what happens if a parent gives you a gift that you accept, but then 6 months later decides that the parent's unhappy with the services you're providing and starts to seek out retribution?
So when this is a situation, the parents might sometimes use it against you, or they can use it to manipulate the situation to their advantage.
It could also be used as they could hold it over your head. They could blackmail you. Oh, remember that time I bought you Starbucks? Well, I'm asking you to help me with this modifying this challenging behavior, and they could be asking us to use a punishment procedure, and it would go against the code. But then you're stuck in a sticky situation as if, okay, well, I accepted this and I wasn't supposed to, and if I don't help them, then they're going to report me, and then you're stuck on both sides with two ethical violations. And it is a very sticky situation to be put into. However, I do think that gifts don't always have to be conditional. However, in this context, it most likely is conditional.
All right, Thanks. And then our last question we have is, do you have any personal experiences related to this topic that you would like to share? For me, I do. I work in the educational setting. So teachers have a full week actually dedicated to Teacher Appreciation Week. And this is a time for families of our students to really show and give gifts and write letters and kind of shower the people who are providing so much support to their child for the majority of the day. We are with their kids sometimes, during the weekdays more than they are. So we're with them from 8 to 3 o'clock. And it's really an opportunity for them to just express their appreciation, sometimes in a monetary value. I know around, like, we get gift cards. We've had admin actually send out Google Docs to ask us what our preferred snacks are, where we like to shop, so we actually get gifts that apply to us and that we will use and like. And it does feel good to know that our families appreciate all the hard work we're doing. We care so much about our clients, our kiddos, that to know our parents and families see and value and appreciate it does make it not all worth it. I mean, obviously our kids and seeing progress is the most important thing, but it does help us feel supported in what we're doing.
Definitely. And I also have personal experience related to multiple relationships as well as gifts. In terms of multiple relationships, I currently work in center with clients ages 2 to 6. And I have been approached by families. I know other technicians at my job have been approached by families being like, wow, you pair so nicely with the client and everything. Would you mind babysitting for them Friday night? Our babysitter canceled. And obviously they don't have malicious intent. However, that could be harmful to the client's treatment overall. But on the flip side, if that family were to move on to another center, and you would no longer be providing services with them, but you are familiar with that client's behavior, and you're not currently working with them, maybe after a month, maybe you could go babysit. Sometimes different companies have policies, and the ethical code has these strict boundaries, and that could really help a family in terms of wanting to at least have a weekend dinner to themselves. And in terms of gifts, I also know that myself and my coworkers have been approached by family members with gifts more than $10 because they want to show their appreciation, and that's so sweet. I know the other day I complimented my client's shirt as she was coming in, and her mother, who works for that company, was like, oh, you like it? You really like it? Tell me your size and I'll go get it for you. And so I just laughed and brushed it off. And then we kept going, and she was like, no, seriously, if you want the shirt, I'll go get it for you. Just tell me your size. So again, she persisted. And then in the afternoon, when she saw me again, she was like, don't think I forgot about that shirt. And while it is great and everything, we do have that $10 limit. But I know that sometimes the parents will also want to bring us breakfast. And in my center, there's typically 20 people working. And for them, it would be impossible to get a breakfast under $10. So for the families to kind of have some leeway and just for the code to be a little less strict would be great, because those families do want to show their appreciation, because behavior analysts work so, so hard.
To add to that, it's not always to show your appreciation. We do see these kids and these families almost every day. We spend sometimes more time with them, their kids, than they do certain days, certain times. I know recently in my center, we have a BCBA who is pregnant. We had a baby shower for her in the center. The parents saw, they were like, oh my gosh, so cute. And one parent brought in a $50 gift card. and it was in a gift, and the BCBA opened it, and she had to return it and explain that it was too high in monetary value and that she really appreciated it and she loved the card. However, we cannot accept gifts like this. And it's not only the families wanting to show appreciation, but if your teacher in school was having a baby, sometimes you would throw a baby shower for them or give them gifts and things like that. So it's not always just appreciation. It's we go through these milestones in our lives with these kids, and they go through their milestones too with us. And it's a connection to the family. And a lot of the times the families also want to be a part of that. And that's pretty normal. I mean, I know if I had a child and my son's teacher was having a baby, I'd be like, "Oh my God, where's their registry?" Like I would get them something because it's a very exciting time in their life. It's just the first time mom, like you spend so much time, you're so thankful for them. Like you just want to be supportive.
Totally. And I think that is what brings it back to our closing statement of we need some balance. Like it can't be so black and white. Like the code is very valuable. There's a reason for it, but how can we bring some, middle ground to it so that we can celebrate people in their milestones? We can show appreciation, but we can set those boundaries in place so that there isn't risk of either party being coerced or feeling like it's a conditional thing that's happening. So that is all we have for our debate, and thank you very much.